Last week, I started a new series on the podcast where I exposed the biggest misconceptions in the NFL, what fans and the media are wrong about. And I want to explain why the NFL is wrong about Kyle Shanahan, because this is somebody that is widely viewed as the most overrated head coach in the NFL, because in the 8 seasons that he's been the head coach of the 49ers, he's had 4 losing seasons. He's choked in the Super Bowl twice. And for somebody that has the level of talent that Kyle Shanahan has had these last couple of years, the narrative is that he has underachieved and he's had a good enough roster to get it done, and he's come up short. And not only do people hold the 49ers shortcomings in the Super Bowl against Kyle Shanahan against them, but of course, nobody's going to forget when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, when they choked that 28-3 lead against Brady and the Patriots, and his play calling down the stretch in that game, refusing to run the football, was a large reason why the Falcons walked away with that L. But Kyle Shanahan is not overrated. And the NFL is wrong about how they view Kyle Shanahan in a sense, because a guy that has been to 4 NFC Championships and 2 Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks is far from overrated, because only a handful of head coaches in the last 5 years have the accolades that Kyle Shanahan has. The only thing that he doesn't have is a Super Bowl to his resume. But other than that, he's been more accomplished than 90% of the coaches in the league right now. And the thing with Kyle Shanahan is that it's not about him being able to win a Super Bowl, because we know that he's capable. Hell, he's been right there. And if Brock Purdy never got injured in that NFC Championship game a few years ago in 2022, maybe the 49ers would have been to a 3rd Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan, and maybe they could have won that one. You never know. But Kyle Shanahan has been right there. The only knock against Kyle Shanahan is that he can't beat one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So can a lot of the best head coaches in the NFL. Sean McDermott can't beat Patrick Mahomes. He's viewed as an elite head coach. You got guys like John Harbaugh who have been unable to get it done in the postseason against Patrick Mahomes. There's not a such thing as a Super Bowl window in the NFL like how the media tries to make it seem like there is. You never know when a team can break through and win the Super Bowl. And as long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of the 49ers, they have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl every single season. Last year, they had a down season because they just suffered a rash of injuries. Brandon Ayuk got injured. You lost Trent Williams for a good amount of time with injuries. CMC missed majority of last year as well. You can only make it to a Super Bowl if you have your best players available. And Kyle Shanahan didn't have that. And even some of the greatest coaches in the NFL, or some of the best to ever coach this sport, have had a few down seasons here and there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're overrated. Just because Kyle Shanahan has come up short in the biggest game in the NFL doesn't mean that he's never going to be able to get it done. Kyle Shanahan right now is in the same situation that Andy Reid was in when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was the elite head coach. He was just unable to get it done in the big game. He constantly came up short in the NFC Championship. And when he did break through and finally made it to the Super Bowl, he lost to the Brady-Belichick dynasty. There's no shame in losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with the way that the 49ers have lost those games, being up by several possessions and just falling short, falling apart in the end. I'll say this. Kyle Shanahan, in big moments, he does tend to get a little bit tense. Against Mahomes and the Chiefs, the last time they saw them in the Super Bowl, when in overtime they decided to play it safe and go for the field goal instead of going for the 4th down conversion to win the game possibly, that was the moment they lost that Super Bowl. Because when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you can't give him an opportunity to win the game. You have to either blow this dude out or you can't give him another chance to possess the football because he's going to beat you every single time. He's the boogeyman for a reason. The only time Patrick Mahomes has lost in the Super Bowl has been when he was just straight up blown out. The Philadelphia Eagles had to get a God squad to beat Patrick Mahomes. That's the only way you can beat him. That's the only way that you can outcoach Andy Reid. This is one of the best franchises in the history of sports at coming up big and clutch moments. And the 49ers don't have the ability to win close games against a team like a Kansas City. So the next time they play Kansas City, what they have to do is just completely dominate them, which they do have the ability to do with how good their team still is. Yeah, they did lose a bunch of good players, but you still got Nick Bosa. You got Robert Saleh taking back over the defense, and 49ers have been praying for him to come back for a while now. So the 49ers, with how easy their schedule is, with them coming back into this year fully healthy, their Super Bowl chances are as good as anybody's. I wouldn't be shocked if we see them right back in the NFC Championship again, because Kyle Shanahan has been there for 4 seasons that he's been coaching the 49ers. So that means 50% of the time that he's been in the Bay, the 49ers have been a game shy of the Super Bowl, if not in the big game. And also, we seem to forget what Kyle Shanahan initially inherited when he first took this job. He didn't walk into a team that was already built to win like how Jim Harbaugh did. Jim Harbaugh had Patrick Willis, Alex Smith, Vernon Davis. Kyle Shanahan had a team that was coming off 2 of the worst head coaching stints of the 2010s, and Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. So it took him a while to get the ball rolling in San Francisco. That's why I don't really count his first 2 seasons against him. I count what he has done since his 3rd season. And in his 3rd season, that's when it all came together. The man went to an NFC Championship with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then made it to another one with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, one of the greatest draft day steals in NFL history. It's funny how Kyle Shanahan gets called overrated, but Brock Purdy also gets called overrated because he's elevated by Kyle Shanahan's scheme and the talent that the 49ers have, although Kyle Shanahan is responsible for assembling the roster that the 49ers currently have right now, which has contributed to Brock Purdy playing good football. And also his play calling has helped Brock Purdy play as well as what he has. But instead, it's like people have this tug-of-war effect where they got to find a way to downplay how good Brock Purdy is, and they try to find a way to downplay Kyle Shanahan as a head coach. The 49ers firing Kyle Shanahan will be an even worser mistake than what firing Jim Harbaugh was. And I don't care if worser isn't a word. It's going to be a word today. It's the word in JT Sports Dictionary. So if worser isn't a word now, well, if worser wasn't a word before, worser is a word now. I'm stamping it. Put it in the dictionary. It makes no sense why it's not a word anyway. Somebody tell me why worser isn't a word. But anyway, Kyle Shanahan is not overrated. And NFL fans and the media that call Kyle Shanahan overrated couldn't be more wrong. Because this is a guy that in 8 seasons has been to 4 NFC championships. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. It's not that Kyle Shanahan can't win the big game. It's just that he hasn't done it yet. And eventually the day will come when he eventually will bring a Super Bowl back to the Bay. It could be this season. It could be 3 years from now. But he's just too accomplished right now to just completely cut bait with them. But you just have fan bases that have these overly high expectations that seem to get a little bit ungrateful at times. And they forget where this team used to be before Kyle Shanahan arrived on the scene. Because if you fire Kyle Shanahan, it's going to be hard to find a coach that's going to be able to guide this franchise to 1 game shot of the Super Bowl and 50% of the time that he's the head coach. History shows that Kyle Shanahan goes far in the playoffs and he can get to a Super Bowl, eventually he will end up winning one.